Hello, Vermont. I'm Andy Julow.
And I'm Joanna Grossman.
And this is There's No Way in Creemee.
Vermont, politics, culture, and beyond.
Thanks for joining us.
So here we are podcasting. This is our first ever podcast. It's very exciting. And we are in what I understand to be the skate shack. And we're surrounded by ice skates and other winter sporting equipment here on North Hero in an island in the middle of Lake Champlain. And it's like equipment closets are kind of our beat.
Yeah, so we'll get into the story, but you ran my Senate campaign, and we had an office in Colchester, and it was in the very back of a bike shop.
Yeah.
Like dark. Well, it was sometimes dark. It was sometimes light because there was a window.
That's true.
And they also sold hot tubs.
Right. That often obscured the window.
Yeah.
Yes.
They would roll in. They were octagonal.
Huge.
Did I get that? I said that right. Octagonal.
They weren't circular? Oh, my God.
Well, wasn't the box. Well, no, they were circular, but I think the box, because you can't make a box that's circular.
Sure. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like a giant stop sign made of cardboard, but it would roll in front of the window, block out all our light for days.
Yep.
And then another truck would come, take it away.
Yep.
And we'd be blinded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were surrounded by really cool bikes. And I believe you reminded me that we were sitting on we had like a table and we were on AstroTurf. And we were on like rickety chairs, and it was pretty scrappy. It was like a proper, like if you picture like proper scrappy down ballot campaign office, it had that vibe.
Well, and I was coming out of the primary, so we had 10 short weeks to pull together a really intense campaign. Yeah. So sometimes it sounds like a dream when you talk about AstroTurf carpet and picket fences and hot tubs that like were solar eclipses that took out our window. It just all seems like a dream. But I think this is being surrounded by skating and hockey equipment is kind of on brand for us in this the skate shed or skate. We haven't quite decided what we're going to call it. We gave it a very bougie name. It's the Cormier Winter Station when we needed grants to insulate it and get it finished. And that's the official name, but it's definitely affectionately referred to as a shack at times.
Yeah, it's basically a clubhouse. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's our adult clubhouse.
Yeah, it's cool. It's fun. He's got like neon lights going and stuff, and it's like good times.
If you're going to go in, go all in.
Yeah, we're all in.
Neon lights. So what's going on in your week, Joanna?
So this past week, it was the second week of my new job. I have a new gig working for Phoenix Books. For many years, I had my own campaign services agency, and I'm putting that aside for a minute. And I took a position with Phoenix Books doing government affairs and communications. I was back at the statehouse on Friday for the first time in a while. Yeah, it was so great to see everybody. It was really, really fun. There's a really like great energy there. After crossover, everything goes bonkers. And they basically hired me to try to fight Amazon and keep the oligarchy out of Vermont. So, that's my jam.
Small task.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to, take on the biggest companies in the world. It's
Bezos seems like a softie. I think you could take him.
Sure, totally. Like, I'm ready. Bring it. Yeah, it's feeling good.
So were you in Senate Economic Development?
I was in Senate Economic Development, but basically just for like, we came in when they were doing the testimony before what we were there for. And then we basically caught two senators that in the break it was really like a pull aside. Like we just, chatted with them, and it was lovely to see both Tom Chittenden and Allison Clarkson. Just wonderful to see them both. And
great.
Allison's an amazing committee chair. I love seeing her committee.
I love Allison.
Yeah, she's the best.
Yeah.
And and it was really fun. And I got to, show off Phoenix Books a little and tell everyone about my new job. And it was just great to see. I love being in that building. It's like my catnip.
It is a very pretty state house.
Yes, and it's just the energy in the room. It's like if high school was awesome or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, not for me.
No, we didn't have those file folders recessed inside the desk.
Yeah, Andy is teasing me because I think it's mostly the House committees in the committee rooms in the State House. They have these tables where there's like slots in the table, and then there's file folders hanging in the table. And I just think it's the coolest thing ever. It's like super old school, and it's like part of the magic of the State House.
Everybody loves an inside joke on a podcast.
Yeah, well, that's why I thought I'd read people in a little bit.
That's good.
You know what? We'll put a picture on our social so you can see it.
It's that Michael Scott quote of I love inside jokes. Love to be a part of one someday.
Oh, yeah, totally. So Andy, you just had a birthday. Did you do anything exciting and special that you want to share with the class?
Yeah, that's right. So my wife and I, we went to New York City. We took in a Mets game, and
my old stomping ground.
Yeah. So we went through Manhattan, which I didn't tell you we were going to do. I just sent you a random picture from the New York.
A little quiz,
and it took you 2 tries to get it. But that's all right.
I'm deeply ashamed of that.
Yeah, it's fine. We were at the New York Public Library. Mm-hmm. We wandered around Manhattan for a little bit. It was a lot of fun. Made you jealous. And then we went out, saw the Mets game. They won. It was awesome. It was a close game. I caught a foul ball, which is the second time I don't go to that many games. It's like once a year.
Right.
And I've caught 2 foul balls now. First one just kind of went up and landed right in my lap, and this one I had to work for. I had to put down my coffee, to step into the aisle, reach down and catch it, and it was trucking. And then I turned around, and there was a kid there, so I gave it to the kid. He was thrilled. And I forgot that you become a celebrity for the rest of the game when you catch a foul ball.
Yeah.
And I had to take a curtain call.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then everybody kept coming up and shaking my hand, and it was wild.
I just think, for a New Yorker, catching a ball I almost said Shea, at Citi Field is that is a birthday. That is proper. You did it right.
Yeah. Well, somebody, maybe Corinne slipped Francisco Lindor a 20
Is that how it works?
To get jammed on a pitch and send it back into the near the press booth. I don't know if that's how it works.
Yeah,
if she did that, she didn't tell me. She kept the magic alive.
Yeah. Did you have hot dogs at the stadium?
No, we had pastrami on rye.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I like that. That's you got to get the New York experience. I guess Nathan's Hot Dog is a New York experience. And all the muffler shops had been bulldozed. It looked like they're building something fancier around Citi Field. It's not going to be surrounded by chop shops and mufflers anymore.
Queens is selling out.
Yeah, it's going upscale. And we were in Manhattan, and I was... I've only been there a few times, and I was pretty small. So we went down for the Macy's Day Parade when I was really little. I remember seeing Darth Vader go by. That was it. I was also afraid of clowns, and there's 40,000 clowns in the Macy's Day Parade. Yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah.
But that part, and nobody stops. When on TV, they all stop and they do sing the song.
So they only stop in front of the VIP bleachers where the mayor sits.
That's terrible.
It's go ahead with your story, though.
Oh, I want to. I can't get past that.
But they only stop in one place.
And so I've been a couple times as a kid, and then we went back with my girls to the Met a little bit, and then we've kind of come in and out of Queens, but I haven't been to Manhattan all that often. And what was really different was the persistent smell of marijuana as you walked around.
Yeah. It's so bad now.
That's new, right?
That's just in the past couple. It really is pandemic and beyond. It was not like that before that.
So we should introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
Let me start with my co-host, Joanna Grossman. She has done multiple cycles of national digital organizing for Democrats. She ran her own campaign services agency for 5 years and has managed several high-profile campaigns in Vermont, including Ben Travers, who is president of the Burlington City Council, Chris Winters for Secretary of State, and myself for State Senate. She is currently the chair of the Chittenden County Democrats, and she works for Phoenix Books as a community relations director.
That is all accurate. My co-host, Andy Julow, is a former senator from Colchester and the Islands. He is a former school district chair for the North Hero Champlain Island School District and general do-gooder up here in the Islands. Everyone knows him and loves him and loves the Great Ice Festival that he throws every year, which is amazing and you should all check out. He's also a seasoned tech entrepreneur, economic developer, and president of the Regional Development Corporations.
Do-gooder. Better than Goody Two-Shoes, the nickname I got at 8th grade camp.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I know that's a deep, really intense trigger for you, and I'm sorry to have brought that up on our first podcast.
You're not sorry.
You know what else I want to name check, actually, is the way you said Chris's last name is the sanctioned Vermont pronunciation of a T. Yeah. My daughter always says that I say Vermont like not a Vermonter. She says Vermonter, like you kind of do.
You pronounce
winners.
the T.
Yeah, I pronounce
mistake.
the T, and this to Issa is like a criminal offense. She always says, "You're not really a Vermonter," or she says, "You're not really a Vermonter," like you do.
You probably hear that a lot.
Yeah, I think I'm going to hear it more and more on this podcast.
Probably.
All right, so here we are at our hot topic of the week, aka host topic of the week, whatever you prefer. So yeah, Andy, what do you got?
Yeah, so as we're recording this, next week will be 6 months since November 5th, the election, a day we remember quite well. We saw 26 seats in the House and Senate flip from Democrat to either independent or mostly Republican. And we really haven't seen, I can't at this point, they've been in session for a while, tell where Democrats have gone yet with being a majority but not being a supermajority. Things like housing, education, healthcare, all of these topics. It isn't quite clear where the party is going with these at this point. And I'm wondering, I think you have some theories on, why that is. I think we're kind of caught in the middle of where to go next. But it seems like 6 months in, we should have some indication, or there should be some test labbing of messages or directions on these issues, because in another 6 months or so, people are going to start thinking about running for 26. And It's getting late early, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I think, obviously I think a lot about that as a party strategist and serial campaign manager. And I've been thinking a lot about, have we learned the lessons of 2024 or not? And this kind of goes back to a few previous elections on the national level and the party's strategy and how we have or have not sort of adapted to that. And actually, I'll share with you a little about like two sort of competing voter mobilization strategies. So for most of like Democratic campaigning, we focus on persuading voters to vote for us, right? And then when Stacey Abrams ran in Georgia, she did sort of like, she launched this base mobilization strategy that was really new and groundbreaking for the party, where she found tons of unregistered residents of Georgia who would be natural Democrats, and she registered them to vote, and then they leveraged this base mobilization strategy. So instead of persuading people who didn't agree with them, they brought more people onto the voter rolls who did agree with them, and that was the base mobilization strategy. And it like took the party by storm, and everybody was like, yes, let's just mobilize the base. And the thing is, you really have to do both, but like the party kind of went all in on that strategy, and that really played out in our 2024 elections, because we hit our, like even on our campaign, we hit those core Democratic talking points really hard. We talked about repro and, LGBT rights and like all this like awesome progressive policy stuff that we care a lot about. But we didn't do a great job of persuading voters who aren't naturally aligned with us necessarily to come with us. And that especially broke down as we saw Trump kind of undercut us with the working class and take out our like coalition with the labor movement and some of the working class voters that were like a tougher sell for some of those progressive policies. And I had hoped after this election that what we will learn from that is that we really need to do better, what we call in the trade message segmentation. So we would be focusing on those voters we lost, those moderate rural voters that we lost, and actively trying to persuade them by saying, hey, we care about affordability, we care about taxes, we care about healthcare access and all the other stuff that we heard about on doors and texts. And we haven't really done that. I feel like the Democrats in Vermont The ones who won feel like, oh, well, I won by talking about progressive social issues. And so they're still talking about that. And there's nothing wrong with talking about that, but they're not also talking about the stuff that the voters we lost care about. And so that's my big concern, and something that at Chittenden County Democrats we're trying to do a little bit more of is focusing on, okay, how do we reach the moderate voters that we lost by really revisiting a persuasion campaign strategy.
And to be fair, this is going on up the chain at the national level too. This is not Vermont Democrats, struggling for this. And we've had a supermajority for quite some time. So the Democrats could come out and say, here's our environmental policy, here's our housing policy, here's our education policy, and they could push that agenda as long as they stay together. Now we're in this world where the veto is always there, and then Phil Scott vetoes a lot of legislation, and they do not have the ability to override it. So it doesn't seem like they've quite figured out how to proceed in that environment yet.
Yeah, I think I expected the caucuses to be a little more scared of those narrower margins. I mean, I know that people feel it in their committees. I definitely hear people saying that. And, we want to get them those wider margins so that they have more impact on creating policy. But it does seem like at the end of the day, if someone is there, they assume that what they did worked and aren't thinking so much about who could have been in the chair next to them.
Yeah, and our experience is very much shaped by our campaign.
Right.
And we could feel the working class slipping away from us.
Yeah.
And that's my background, where my family comes from, and it just didn't it hurt me to not have these people's vote and their attention, and something I want to jump on. But that's there's that delicate balance when you build a coalition, that if you push too hard on one area, you risk losing another. Bernie Sanders was on a town hall. I was watching. It was probably a couple of weeks ago. I only caught a little clip of it, but basically they were kind of asking that question of how do you get back the working class without losing, some of these marginalized groups that have identified so strongly with the Democratic Party.
Totally.
Yeah, and his response was that some of these issues are just, they belong to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, affordability and good jobs and all of this stuff is stuff that everybody cares about, and you're not necessarily pushing away people by adopting them. And it doesn't seem like we're doing the best job of speaking to those values.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that is one of the great things about a lot of those moderate issues, is that they do affect most people. And honestly, the people who they don't affect are the elites. And so if we're not caring about them, we are kind of playing into the stereotype that Democrats are the party of the elite. And that hurts my heart a little bit.
Yeah. Me too. So there's not a lot of time left in the session, but the Republicans finished very strong down the road and set themselves up very well in 24 for that election. I mean, what can Democrats do at the end of this session to put them in a stronger position?
Oh, man. Great question. I mean, there are bills that Democrats are working on that, there's the medical debt bill, for example, or, the bill working on new TIF districts in rural districts. And, I have a running list of moderate friendly legislation that Democrats are working on. And I wish we were holding a few press conferences about those and talking about those bills, because Democrats do care about moderate voters. We just aren't shouting about them quite as much as we should be.
All right. Well, this takes us to our what we call our interview segment. We are not going to have an interview today. We're going to start off with our story. It's our first episode, and we should talk a little bit about who we are and why we're doing this podcast.
Yeah.
I think. Okay. And that starts with me.
It does.
On the script that you wrote.
Yeah.
So I was innocently painting the bathroom of my office at the Lake Champlain Islands Economic Development Corporation last April, when I checked my email, which you should never do if you're trying to, actually be productive at painting the bathroom like I was. And I had an email from the chairman of the South Hero Select Board, who just happened to be a friend of Dick Mazza, and he had visited him in the McClure Respite Home.
Former Senator Dick Mazza.
Yes, and Senator Mazza shared that he was thinking about resigning at that point. His cancer was terminal, and asked asked the select board chair if he would recommend 3 people from the islands. He was also trying to solicit 3 people from Colchester to be submitted to Governor Scott to be considered for his to fill his role as a senator. Walked next door, talked to my wife, who actually works 2 buildings down from me, and we had that conversation, and we decided to let my name go forward, and not thinking that it would necessarily go very far, but after a couple of interviews with the governor's staff and then the governor himself, in May I was appointed to the Vermont State Senate and was there for the veto session. Ran for re-election. I had a primary which I managed to squeak through on, figuring it out on my own. I'd run for state rep in 2020 with Mitzi Johnson, so it's some clue what I was doing, but barely. And then I got through that round and knew I needed help. And everybody said, talk to Joanna Grossman. She's a fantastic campaign manager, and that's how we met. And they were right.
A lot of people may not know that, people have asked me many times, like, oh, well, Andy's a Democrat and the governors are Republicans, so how did he end up getting appointed? And actually, it's good for people to know that's something of a tradition in Vermont, to appoint someone in the same party as the outgoing elected. And the governor did stay true to form on that, and that's part of how you ended up in the Senate. Yeah, so that's right. For better or worse, you got referred to me.
It's better.
I'm a serial campaign manager for Democrats here in Vermont. I actually, I've done a lot of Democratic organizing across the country. And a few years ago, the locals sort of got wind of me and started asking me to do campaigns here. And it went from school board to statewide in 60 seconds. And so, you reached out to me about me running your campaign, and my first response was, I don't do down ballot anymore.
Not good enough for you. Yeah.
But you persisted, and so I've been, we met because I've been county chair of the Democratic Party for a year and a half now, and
now know how rare it is for me to be persistent like that too.
Yeah, that's right. I appreciate that. I mean, you're a doer for sure. But I can see how that might have been.
I mean, and I've confessed to you that my wife told me to call you back. Don't let her go.
Which I appreciate.
Pay her whatever she wants.
Yeah, I mean, this. I mean, I was trying to get a job on the Harris campaign at the time, and I was holding out, hoping that the Delaware operation would finally call me back. You hit me at the right moment.
Second choice to Kamala Harris. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not so bad, right? We started running your campaign, hit the ground running, I think right on September 1st. And it was 10 weeks of really, really intense campaigning. And I remember at the beginning, I said to my husband, I was like, well, I don't know, it's only a 10-week campaign. I'm hardly even going to get to know this guy. Cut to us recording our first podcast together.
I grow on people.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Other people too?
It's going to take it's only been, yeah. That's not nice.
So that's what happened. So we ran a really, really tough fight. And out of all the open Senate seats, we came by far the closest, but it was a slaughter for Democrats that cycle.
Yeah, and I had no idea when I got into this that would be it's basically the campaign. There wasn't much going on up above us on the ticket. And of all the Senate seats, it was the most competitive, and it was the most well-funded on the Republican side. Mm-hmm. And we didn't quite get to the highest funded. We were pretty close to the highest funded Democrat.
We were really close.
We were up there. It was a very intense 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was 8 steps behind when I brought you in. I don't know if you felt that too, or you played it cool if you did.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't your fault. It was just hard to catch up. But we fought a really good fight. I think it's always more fun for the campaign manager. I don't know, but it was really fun for me, even though it was really tough. I mean, in the beginning, you always lose sleep about funding the campaign. But we brought in a lot of money really fast.
We did.
And you knocked on 1 million doors, and, we did a good job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You just sent me to those doors and I knocked on them. That was the way it worked. Right. Yeah. And there's no lingering resentment over any of
No, not at all. No, not at all. No, it was illuminating for me to have like a rural campaign experience. Like, even though I'd run statewide, I was always running it really from by Vermont standards, the urban seats of the state, Burlington and Montpelier. And it was really cool to have a rural campaign experience and see more of Vermont with more intensity. And I really loved that and enjoyed that.
Well, that's the difference in our perspective, because you view that as rural, and I was so thrilled. I had run in the Champlain Islands for representative before, and Colchester I'd park in a neighborhood and I could walk around and knock on the doors and not have to get back in my car. That was really nice. That was the big city.
Yeah, I can totally see how that must have felt. I mean, that is most of my canvassing experience is in urban environments where, you're just walking around going door to door.
And for that was your background, and this is my background.
Right.
And we had 10 weeks to kind of figure it out, and we did really well to bring it all together, I think.
We did.
And I had a previous campaign manager from my House campaign.
Right.
And we finished out the campaign, and we don't talk anymore.
Right. You can't shake me. All my candidates, they can't get rid of me.
Well, we had like a mourning process that we had to go through.
That's right.
And you felt it just as deeply as I did after the loss. And,
I'm all in for better or worse with most of my projects.
And I think we felt, we worked really well together, and maybe there's more to be done here. And I think we were, I thought we were joking about having a podcast after the campaign.
We were joking. So during the campaign, I used to joke all the time that we should have a podcast called Julow and the Jew, because I'm Jewish, and I thought that was hysterical. And I would tell everybody who would walk into our campaign office about that. And here we are doing a podcast, but we didn't call it that.
We did not. That didn't quite seem appropriate.
No. It's still funny, though.
Yeah. But what the name is, we went with?
There's no A in creamy, right? Because it doesn't make sense to non-Vermonters that there's no A in creamy, because to us, the word creamy is based on the word cream. So when you're not from Vermont and you drive up through Vermont and you see all these signs for creamies, it seems weird and it's confusing.
And you've been here for 15 years?
Yeah, I've been here for a little while.
And this is still bothering you?
Yeah. And like most of
creamy without an A?
Yep. And I would say like all my expat New Yorker friends up here, like we all still struggle with the word creamy. It's like major cultural barrier.
Is there a cross-reference table in your head that takes it to soft serve?
Yeah, I guess. But I can't really order one. I can't.
Why? No. And
we're keeping it together.
I guess coming from Vermont, I just never really thought about it. You win a Little League game, you go out and get a creamy.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that the rest of the world is out there functioning without them. How did you manage those first several years?
We had ice cream. Like other parts of the country have ice cream. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't call them creamies. We would just eat ice cream.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was a really rough childhood without creamies.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can even say the word, like, for the most part without giggling. So it's a major progress for me. I didn't that time, but sometimes I do.
So many childhood memories just being destroyed, like crushed.
That's what I'm here for.
This is what New Yorkers do. They come to Vermont and they crush our dreams and our memories.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
And then they wonder.
That's why when Steve and I were thinking of moving up here, we were like, where can we go to crush people's memories and like, childhood joy?
Yeah, thanks for finding us and me. Yeah.
You're welcome.
And we went through a number of titles.
Right.
And your husband is an English professor. And a lot of them had creamy in it, but they kept sticking an A in there.
Yeah.
And he kept shouting,
there's no A in creamy.
Right.
He was quite emphatic, and he's a New Yorker, right? So he kind of like had your back there. He felt he was defending
I think it was more from the English line. I think it was more grammar correction. Like there was, if he had a red pen and he could, do that in the text world, I think he would have scratched it out in red.
Yeah, that's probably true. It was that it wasn't accurate. It wasn't a correct spelling.
Yeah.
You're right. It wasn't really like a cultural defense. That's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, that correction just kind of stood out to us, and there was the title.
There was the title. It's good. I'm really happy with it.
You have a nugget, a creamy nugget?
Okay, so I did a little research on creamees, and I found a little clip that I'd like to play for you.
The Vermont Agency of Agriculture website contains rules connected with the manufacture and sale of frozen desserts. According to the website, the most common holder of a frozen dessert license in Vermont is a creemee stand. Where did the word creemee come from?
In the 1940s, dairy equipment technology progressed to the point where a milk-based mix could be placed in a machine that chilled the ingredients and blended air into the mixture as it cooled. The machine could then dispense the soft-serve frozen confection in single servings for dishes or cones. Technically, soft-serve is known as ice milk. It typically has a milk fat content between 2% and 8%. Comparatively, ice cream has a milk fat content of 10% or more.
The word creemee was initially connected with a particular brand of soft-serve freezer, the Freeze King, from Chicago, Illinois. In most of Vermont, as time went on, the word creemee became iconic. The term was used to describe soft-serve from any brand of freezer. According to the Rutland County Maple Producers Association, the popular maple creemee was introduced to the public in 1981. It became a fixture at the Vermont State Fair in Rutland and has come to represent a unique part of the Vermont experience.
So you've heard what I think, the Brattleboro Historical Society has to say about it and their crew of child performers. So I'm
astounded by all that I didn't know about creamies.
Yeah.
They taste great. That's what I knew as a kid. And I think you just kind of absorb the things around you. Like you just take for granted that they've always been there. And then you travel outside. I lived in Montana for a while, and there were no creamies, and it was difficult.
It was rough.
It was rough. There was no maple syrup. There was no creamies. There were no leaves. That was all very hard.
When you had like childhood experiences, like going to get a creemee with your family, was it always maple? Because this is, as a New Yorker, something I don't really understand.
I don't remember there being a lot of maple creamies available when I was a kid. And I don't know if that's something that came on late or the islands were slow to adopt it. Allen Home Farm is really well known for their maple creamies now.
Gotcha.
But I just don't feel like it was an option when I was a kid.
Sure.
It was limited, really. It was vanilla, chocolate, Twist. I remember when Twist came out, and it was like,
it's a big deal.
Civilization had arrived.
Wow.
In Champlain Islands. We didn't have any cable.
It's really.
We had electricity.
It's interesting to me to hear that maple creemee was not formative to your creemee experience, because coming in to Vermont when I did, I thought it was like maple creemee or bust. Like I just thought that was what it was.
I wonder if there's some regionalism with that. Mm-hmm. Because
interesting. You think like the Champlain Valley like rocks the maple vibe a little harder?
Maybe. Yeah. And maybe we just didn't do maple in the islands until Allen Home started doing it. I don't know. There's apparently some people who think that sprinkles are a must.
Yeah.
And we won't even get to the
so
sprinkles
nice.
Jimmy's controversy.
Well, do you call, okay. Yeah, we will.
We will? Oh, all right. Here we go. Let me crack my knuckles.
No,
let's go.
But this is a good question.
Yeah.
So do you call them sprinkles or Jimmy's?
Yeah, I call them sprinkles, and I always have. The first time I encountered Jimmy's is when we went to Maine.
Yeah.
But I did a little research on that. I didn't research the thing that we were supposed to talk about on the podcast. I researched something entirely different.
Sure.
And it's very spotty. Like I think it started in the Midwest was Jimmy's.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And it's like a East Coast, West Coast, but then Massachusetts and Maine are kind of doing their own thing.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's another podcast we could.
It might be. I grew up with the term sprinkles, but once I didn't hear Jimmy's until I think I went to college. But then I was a little jealous because it's such a cute word. I kind of wished I had grown up saying Jimmy's, and I wish I could adopt it, but it's just not. I haven't naturalized to it.
No, I would imagine it's a lot like trying to call soft serve creamies when you have not grown up in Vermont.
That's worse.
It'll never sound right. It's much worse?
Yeah.
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 All right, that brings us to our last licks segment. I am going to ask Joanna a question. Joanna is going to ask me a question, and a good time will be had by all.
Correct.
That's right. All right, Joanna.
All right, hit
I
me.
want you to woman-splain to me how, as a country bumpkin out here in Grand Isle County, how the Burlington City Council works. There are a number of different pieces to it that I don't understand.
Yeah.
And the first is how, because you elect on town meeting day, so there's no primary. That's the first piece that I don't necessarily understand. So how you determine who the nominees are for the parties. The parties are strange, but I kind of get that part, progressives, Democrats.
Right.
And then you've got wards, and then you've got districts, but it's not a bicameral legislature. They all end up getting mixed together. How does that work?
Yeah. Okay. This is a great question. Your first question was actually, how does the Burlington City Council work? And it doesn't. No, just kidding.
I feel like that was on a plate.
Yeah. So the Burlington City Council is a really sort of interesting, a different beast from the rest of electoral politics in Vermont. I've run 3 city council races in Vermont. I've run both of Ben Travers' campaigns. He's the current city council president. And so I've had a fair amount of experience in that. And I also ran the city party briefly. So, okay, the first part, why aren't there primaries? So what Burlington has instead of primaries is a caucus. And I just want to say that I don't necessarily think this is the way it should be. This is the way it is. So just like some states, like if you think about the presidential election, some states have a primary and some states have a caucus, like Iowa is famous for the Iowa caucus. Burlington has a caucus. And it's really not the most democratic solution. I mean, it would be better if we had a primary because there would be better voting access. So what they have instead is each party in Burlington, the Progressive Party and the Democratic Party, have caucuses where they warn and let people know they're going to have a big meeting, and that's your chance to choose that party's nominee, like we would for, a gubernatorial election with a primary. And so it's a little tricky because people get confused about knowing that this is open to any voter in Burlington. Any registered voter in Burlington can participate in the caucus, but because it's not managed by the regular, electoral operations that we have, so the infrastructure we have set up in the state, it can actually be pretty confusing. And so voter participation is quite a bit lower, which is unfortunate. But so each party has a caucus, and that's where they pick the nominees, both for mayoral and for city council. And those are usually in the fall. They really can run through January. The parties get to decide when they are. And so that's how the caucuses work. So your next question, part of the question here was, what's a ward? And why are the districts for the city councils different? So we have 2 different kinds of overlapping districts in Burlington. Just like in Vermont, you have overlapping House and Senate districts. We have overlapping ward and districts, for lack of a better term. So we have, but they're not separate chambers. They're all together. So we have 8 wards, and then we have North, South, East, and West districts. So I live in Ward 5, and I'm in District South. And those are overlapping, but District South encompasses Ward 5 and 6. Does that answer your question? Do you have other follow-ups there to anything I didn't hit?
Yeah. So Ben is a president, not a chair.
Ben is the elected president of the Burlington City Council. So the city council elects their president.
Okay. And it's president. Not, Okay. Not
right.
Chair. Is it based on, is that an urban pattern? Wards and districts and...
Yeah, other cities do that. I mean, in New York, we had like city council districts. It was a little bit more like, states. But I know like other big cities do have wards, and you sometimes hear about like a ward here and there. And I actually think Montpelier might have wards now that I think about it. Like I've never read a Montpelier city council race. It would just be really small. But I know that it is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, all the board elections in smaller towns are nonpartisan, so they don't have that layer.
Right. Actually, yeah, Burlington, to my knowledge, Burlington has the only really partisan municipal elections. And actually, as the county chair for the Democratic Party, it's a really tricky line to walk because we want to support our Democrats running in the Burlington City Council races and in the mayoral, but then in the other 18 municipalities in my district, those are all nonpartisan municipal elections. And so it's a little bit of like, wait, why are you doing that? Why aren't you doing that? And like, we're always kind of trying to like work that out and feel out what works for different towns.
Yeah, and I could actually probably tell you in Grand Isle County, the party affiliation of every select board member, even though they're not partisan.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, you just got to something I hear all the time. Half people say it has to be nonpartisan. Half people say it would be so much easier to just know because like everybody knows. And,
We've gotten almost to like a shadow partisan. Like there are definite. It used to be that nobody ran for these things, and there'd be all these open seats, and now there's a lot more involvement.
Well, that's good.
It's good. It's good, and it's also it's more contentious than it used to be. But I guess that's the system that we have. But there are definitely now starting to develop in these smaller towns affiliations, and they're very much on the partisan line.
Yeah.
And each one's trying to pack the boards, especially the select boards, with their own party. Yeah.
We could do a whole episode about like what party affiliation means to Vermonters. I mean, that's such a big thing here. It's unique. Cool. I have a question for you, Andy.
Fire away.
Okay. Explain what town meeting is. So I'll just preface this by saying in Burlington, we don't have a town meeting. And I have never been to a town meeting because even though I could have left Burlington to go to one, I couldn't because I'm always running someone's campaign. So I want to know, what is a town meeting? My like context for town meeting is Gilmore Girls, which, as you know, I'm obsessed with. And I'm totally curious, is town meeting like got a Taylor Dozy type guy, at the front of the room? And in a more serious sense, like, is town meeting like an equitable, did towns and residents feel like it's an equitable way to make decisions? Do people feel like it's effective? And every year I always see the town meeting day bingo card going around on social media.
So I like that your question outs me as someone who's watched Gilmore Girls, first of all.
Oh, I wasn't going to out you.
Yeah.
Too late.
Who's Taylor? So first of all, I have to preface this and say that the Grand Isle County towns mostly did away with true town meeting when in the early aughts. I think I was in Philadelphia. I worked briefly for the National Park Service down in Philadelphia at Independence Hall and the Liberty Bell, and I think I was there because I would the question would always come up. Some smarty pants older guy would always come up and, hey, are we a republic or a democracy? Trying to stump the chump type of thing.
Sure.
And technically, America is a republic. Democracy is where everybody shows up, like they did in Athens,
right,
and votes. And I said the only true form of democracy is how we do it in New England with our town meeting. And then my community undercut me while I was away. My back was turned, and they took it away. So my memories of true town meeting are as a kid, they would pay some teenager to watch us in the library, and every once in a while they couldn't handle your problems, so you got sent to your parents, and you'd go into the gym, and town meeting would be going on, and you'd pull on your mom's arm, and she'd be trying to pay attention to something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't had true town meeting, but we do still have the informational meeting, which is akin to town meeting, but we can't actually vote, so we do Australian ballot. So a lot of the same things go on, but it's a little bit of a different flavor. But yeah, so Taylor was the moderator on
the Gilmore Girls.
I forgot the name of the show.
You're welcome.
Because I've never seen it. And yeah, most towns have someone who's a moderator, and they've been doing it for like 100 years, and they take it like it is the most serious thing that they do, and they usually will lead off with some monologue about the importance of democracy, and usually quote Winston Churchill at some point.
Oh my God, that really is right out of the show.
Oh, it's great.
Oh my God, I'm missing out.
My favorite was Lou Dorwalt. He was a member of our church, and he was our moderator in North Hero when I was in my early 20s, and he ran a tight ship, and he knew everything about all the rules, and he kept everything in line, and it was just awesome. But he had all these great quotes. We need to learn to disagree without being disagreeable, I think is how he would always preface. Yeah.
Our Secretary of State always says that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I forget. I don't think that's Winston Churchill. I forget who that was, but he had lots of quotes. So yeah, there's always that moderator, and they shouldn't be chill. They should be like really insanely into it. Yeah, that's
Wow.
that's important. Like Taylor was, they never really seem to decide anything on Gilmore Girls. You ever notice that though? Like the meetings, they come together, they make fun of Taylor,
Right.
and then they just kind of laugh and walk
A
out.
lot of snack food is consumed.
Yes,
Yeah.
and everybody's smiling when they walk out. And most people are not smiling when they walk out of our.
That doesn't surprise me, actually.
In small rural communities, I think Parks and Rec, the public forums they have where everybody
Yes.
goes off the rails and screams at each other.
Yes.
That's more how these things tend to go down in my.
That's
experience.
rough.
Yeah. Democracy's kind of ugly when you get like down to the nuts and bolts level.
Yeah, even less than that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you asked if it was equitable and democratic. A small portion of the population shows up. So,
Right.
and those people will say, well, we're the ones who actually read the town report and we show up and we're making an informed decision. So it's that
Right.
there's a debate there about quality of democracy, whether small people who are really into it are better than a larger group of people who are less connected
Yeah.
to the issue. A small number of people sometimes can dominate, like the loud. It's a little bit like social media. Like 4 people can be very loud and very dominant, and sometimes a lot of the people in the room don't get to be heard.
Yeah.
So that's not always equitable.
Do people knit? Like the bingo card
Yes.
question, people are always saying like,
Yes.
yeah, people knit.
Yeah.
And
There's some really amazing, powerful politicians in Vermont history who knit in Senate committee rooms and
Nice.
have powerful people in the House who have knit. So I'm told you can focus better if you have something to occupy your hands. You can actually listen really well to the conversation sometimes.
yeah, no.
You can change things on the fly. So that's one of the coolest things is you'll find out that most school budgets don't fail in small towns that have true town meeting because you can make those tweaks on the fly. You can lower this item, you can lower that item. Like everybody can come to an agreement before. Like things have to really be going poorly for you to walk out of there with no budget because you'll all have to come back and continue that conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. There are characters you'll see at town meeting that do replicate across the state. The bingo card. Yeah, I mean, somebody will mention the town fathers. That's always that's a given.
The town fathers.
Town fathers. The town fathers didn't intend us to do this. The town fathers intended
Is that
us
like
to do
founding fathers?
Yes.
Oh my
And
God, that is amazing. I've
Nobody knows
never
who they
heard
are,
that.
though.
No.
There's never Jedediah Smith would have thought. It's not that. They're not specific. They couldn't name these people. They're just like the town fathers always thought we should do this. And I don't know what these people's credentials are to speak on behalf of the town fathers.
But is there a document they've all signed? I just feel like the founding fathers can be traced back to
Yeah. We know who they are.
we know who they are.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
That's really funny and
No.
so misogynistic.
It's just telegraphing this is the way we did it before you were alive, Sonny, and yeah.
Totally.
Keep doing it that way. There will be lots of discussion about salt and gravel.
Sure.
Yep. There
That's
will be
big
some
here.
people with calculators making suggestions or calculating the cost of gravel. That always goes on at these meetings. It's fun. Some new resident will stand up and demonstrate that they can't read the room by either suggesting that we put in a dog park or an ice rink.
Oh, sure.
Or can we do something about the smell of the cow manure?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's a standard of town meeting. What to do with any surplus is going to be a big topic. That's going to take up a significant portion of the debate, no matter how large or small it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, surpluses are a hot button issue.
So you really do get into a lot of the municipal weeds.
Everything policy governance tries to avoid is everything that you do.
Yeah,
at town
apparently.
meeting is micromanagement to the extreme. You get these people, 5 people on the select board or school board who've been up there living this
Yeah.
budget for
Yeah.
months and governing this district.
Well,
all
and
the
there's also town employees,
Yes,
right? That this
yes.
is their job.
Like the road crew foreman.
Right.
Yeah, they probably understand a little bit about the gravel, but somebody will show up and second guess how much gravel we're buying or the size of the gravel.
Oh, wow.
Gravel is very big
Okay.
in small towns. The least controversial ballot item will have the person who sponsors it will stand up and over-explain it for the longest amount of time.
Sure.
Yep. When you talk about the school budget, someone's going to stand up and cry, probably.
Oh, wow.
Someone will question the number of cars in the parking lot. That's an obsession for many people. How many cars are in the school parking lot?
You mean at town meeting or during school?
During school. So I think it's to them represents the number of employees that the school has gotten away from
And that's
us.
their metric?
That is the metric, the number of cars in the parking lot.
Sure.
Of course, you're not allowed to go in these buildings anymore. Like there's security and
Right.
all that stuff. So we have to put a layer of separation. So that's the metric.
But I would think that that data would be available from the school district. Like,
It's in the town report.
Yeah.
How many?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like a folksy way of calling it out.
sure.
Yeah. Most of the comments will start with, when I was a kid, and they will end with, and I turned out fine, which is often questionable coming
Yeah.
from the person that says that.
For sure.
And cursive suddenly becomes, everybody loves cursive. And if we don't
That
have,
comes up at town meeting?
that comes up at town meeting. Yeah, sometimes that we're not teaching cursive. And what kind of society are we going to be if we don't have kids with cursive?
Wow, I'm learning so much.
You could come
this
to any of
segment,
these. Yeah, you should come.
I'm always like running someone's campaign, or I like agreed to hold a sign at the polls, or like I can't extricate myself, but I have for many years now been wanting to come to a town meeting.
It's an experience.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah. But the bake sales are usually very good.
We have a bake sale in Burlington.
Oh, well, then
Yeah,
we don't need town meeting.
yeah.
I take it all back.
No, I think the bake sale is really important. I'm glad all of Vermont is benefiting from bake sales. I'm a big fan.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you all for listening.
Follow us between episodes and for the latest updates on our socials at There's No A in Creamy on Instagram, Substack, and Blue Sky.
And catch us on our next episode of There's No A in Creamy, Vermont Politics, Culture, and Beyond in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. This is when we find out we're as witty and charming as we think that we are.
No, we're extremely witty and charming. That much I know for sure.
All right.
Whether we can deliver it on a podcast is another story.
All right.